don't know about you, but I've watched a lot of television shows that showcase the forensic aspect of crime solving, like CSI, NCIS, and Bones. I've often wondered how much of what is shown is actually like real-life forensic science. So I decided to do a little research on DNA analysis, which is one of the most reliable and accurate forensic tools used today. Today I'm going to talk about the processing of DNA analysis in bodily fluids. There are several different types of DNA evidence that can be analyzed, such as fingerprints and hair samples, but today I'm going to talk about the processing of DNA in bodily fluids. Processing DNA in bodily fluids involves multiple steps. The first step is extraction. This is where the DNA needs to be taken from the nucleus in the cell in the bodily fluids. This step can take 2 to 3 hours depending on whether it's done manually or by a robotic machine. The next step is quantitation. This is where the quality and quantity of the DNA is measured. The next step is called amplification. This step can take 2 to 3 hours to be completed. Amplification is where multiple copies of the DNA sequences are made if there is not a large enough quantity originally. This is accomplished through a process called polymerase chain reaction, or PCR. The process of PCR results in a large mixture of amplified DNA molecules, which leads to the next step, separation. The amplified DNA molecules need to be separated through a process called capillary electrophoresis so that they can be distinguished from one another. Now that the extraction, quantitation, amplification, and separation steps have been completed, the actual analysis and interpretation can begin. The analysis is performed by an analyst who interprets the results on a graph called an electropherogram. This graph provides the analyst with the genetic makeup of the person who the DNA belongs to and indicates that person's gender. In the case of criminal investigations, the processed DNA is ran through a database called the Combined DNA Index System, or is most commonly known as CODIS. CODIS contains 3 levels of operation: the local DNA index system, the state DNA index system, or the national DNA index system. In television, analysts can put the DNA into CODIS and within minutes they come back with a match. However, in real life, it can take days to weeks to come back with a match. DNA profiles in CODIS consist of arrestees, forensic unknowns, unidentified humans, and missing persons. There are also regulations for uploading a DNA profile to CODIS. So I guess you could say that analysis and interpretation of the DNA is basically a process within itself. The DNA analysis of bodily fluids is very important in instances like criminal investigations, especially with the use of the CODIS database. 170,000 investigations have been solved thanks to the processing of DNA analysis uploaded to CODIS. Without the DNA analysis of bodily fluids, there would be no rape kits, which helps identify perpetrators in rape cases. In other criminal investigations, DNA analysis of bodily fluids is important in helping to determine who exactly was at the scene of a crime while it was being committed. This aids in not only helping identify the perpetrator, but prosecuting them as well. Without the DNA analysis of bodily fluids, there would be no scientific way to establish paternity. In instances where a mother has had multiple sexual partners, at the time that her child was conceived, it would be virtually impossible to tell who the father was without the processing of DNA analysis in bodily fluids. DNA analysis is a tedious process involving extraction, quantitation, amplification, and separation, not to mention the process of interpreting the results and running them through databases. The analysis of bodily fluids is important in most criminal investigations, and especially in establishing paternity. You can make your own comparisons between DNA analysis in television and in real life, but I think you'll find the biggest difference is time. In television, DNA from a crime scene is often processed in an hour or two, but in real life, each step of processing takes 3 hours in itself. DNA analysis in television isn't all that realistic, but I think you'll find it certainly more entertaining. Thank you.